I'm here today to talk about spousal support. It's a topic that comes up in a fair number of my cases. Also commonly known as alimony, spousal support is when you are required, or the other spouse is required, to pay you a certain amount of money each month to help support your lifestyle. Now, in general, spousal support is justified when one spouse or the other changes their position in life because of the marriage. And as a result of that, changes their career path, perhaps their earnings ability over the course of time, maybe surrenders some of their career path in order to care for children and spend time at home for long periods of time. And as a result of being out of the workforce for a while, maybe lacking the education and skills to be able to obtain a position, they are just simply not going to be able to go out after a divorce is granted and get a job the next day, or a job that is going to provide for their needs the next day. And so usually in those situations, you will see spousal support to be on the table. Now, there is a commonly discussed, and if you Google spousal support, you're probably going to find it, a rule of thumb. This rule of thumb is commonly applied, but it is not by any means the law. Spousal support generally lasts 1/3 of the length of the marriage and will provide for a distribution where the higher earner keeps 60% of the total income and the lower earner will keep 40% of the income that both parties earn. So to make the math stupidly simple, if you had one person earning $60,000 a year and the other person earning $40,000 a year making a request for spousal support, the order should be 0, because the higher person is earning 60% of the total income, the lower person is earning 40% of the total income. But in reality, there is a statute on point. 3105.18 provides a number of factors that will list why a court will consider to grant or not grant spousal support. One of those is the standard of living the parties have developed during the marriage. So if you live a high traveling, high luxury lifestyle, and then you're getting divorced and you want your wife to live like a pauper, guess what? It is likely that there's going to be a spousal support award because of the lifestyle you have developed. I have seen it come up in cases, for example, where after you divided the property, the wife is going to keep the marital home. Well, it's also where the children go to school. And it's also where the children have received an accommodation because of their special, handicaps or physical problems. The school has made accommodations to assist these children in learning. And so the wife now, even though she's keeping the home, can't afford the mortgage. Guess what that spousal support order is going to be? The court's going to say the wife has to stay in the home and she has to stay in that school district because the children have special services in that school district. So husband's spousal support award is going to be paying the mortgage on that home for a certain period of time. Another common issue that will come up during a case, this actually goes the other way, is when the higher earner is out there working while the lower earner is going through education, okay? And the higher earner is essentially providing support and cover for the lower earner who is actually not earning anything because they're going to school all the time to get that education without starving themselves or taking on additional loans to pay for their lifestyle while they're going to school. And then, lo and behold, they've completed their education and they're about to get a job making $150,000 a year, and boom, here comes the divorce. And they want spousal support. Guess what? If I provided you cover and helped you gain education, in order for you to later be a high earner, I'm going to get credit for that. And that might actually flip the script if you are low enough to be in that 60-40 split where the new higher earner is going to be the payor, if you will. Is there any other way a spousal support order can terminate? Obviously, on the death of either party, spousal support terminates. One that comes up a lot is cohabitation with a person who in a way that looks like marriage. That, in law, is a reason to end a spousal support order. It is very hard to prove because you have to not just prove they're living together, you have to prove that they're combining finances. And you can probably imagine how hard the new boyfriend or girlfriend is going to fight to keep their financial records out of your divorce case. So you can understand how that can be a fight. And it might not even get you where you want to go. If their new boyfriend or girlfriend is making $250,000 a year, it's a worthwhile argument. But otherwise, probably not. But that said, it is a potential factor. If you come into that situation, you might be able to end spousal support. The other thing that you should consider, if you're in the middle of a divorce case right now and you're considering settling it, and spousal support is on the table, there is going to be a clause that's going to say whether or not the court retains jurisdiction for two things. One, for the amount of spousal support, and two, for the duration of spousal support. If you have any inkling that either your situation or the other party's situation is going to change anytime during the term, the amount of time that you're on the spousal support award, you should fight for that clause to say retain jurisdiction. And here's why. If you don't retain jurisdiction and you lose your job, and now all of a sudden you're making half of what you used to make, and you want to go back to the court and modify it, and the language in your order says the court shall not retain jurisdiction, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get the modification because you chose to tell the court, we're done with this, right? And there are limited times when that can be advantageous to you if you expect to go up in earnings after the divorce is over. So consider that also. If you also don't have a clause that says modify as to the amount of time, sometimes lifetime awards will stick, even when certain things change. And you have a good argument to say this should no longer be lifetime, this should be a lot less, you may very well be stuck with that order. So please make sure you're looking at the language in your spousal support clause and talking with either me or your attorney about it before you settle your divorce case. If you have any questions about spousal support that I haven't covered or you would like more elaboration, my name is Eric Cherry, N.P. Weiss Law.